immigration playing out on Capitol Hill. House leaders now reportedly considering a standalone bill to bolster President Trump's executive order on halting family separations at the border if a more comprehensive bill fails in the House this week. Republicans pressing forward on this, even though the president suggested in a tweet Friday that they should, quote, stop wasting their time on immigration until after the November elections. Here's how New York Congressman Peter King explained it in an interview with Maria on Sunday Morning Futures.
I think it's important for us to lay out our position, to get it there, get it past the House, get it over to the Senate. Then it becomes part of the debate between now and November, and possibly, again, if it can get to 60 votes in the Senate, which is, again, is possible. It's going to be tough.
Right.
But I think it's important to be out there and to set the debate and set the tone the way we want it to be.
Gabby, any idea how, when a vote could happen, how this can go? Because, again, we talk about the House and there's a solution there, but then if the House votes something through, you got to worry about the Senate.
Right. They have two bills right now that they're looking at. One is that compromise legislation that was crafted by Republican leaders in the House that has yet to be put to a vote but is expected to be this week. And then they also have a narrow bill that they're working on that would tackle just the family separation policy. Essentially, it would end the Flores settlement, which is something that prevents child migrants and unaccompanied minors from being held in U.S. custody at these government-run detention facilities for more than 20 days. And that is really an impediment to this executive order that President Trump signed last week. It could land the administration in legal trouble if they are unable to deal with that court ruling back in 1997. And so that's what the House is looking to do this week. If that passes, it's certainly something that would move on to the Senate and force a tough vote for a lot of Democrats. They don't want to be voting against legislation that would end what they've so criticized this past few weeks.
The Washington Post editorial board defending White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders after she was denied service at a restaurant in Lexington, Virginia Friday night because of her role in the Trump administration. This after Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen and White House policy advisor Stephen Miller were publicly heckled at Washington, D.C. restaurants. The Post writing this, quote, Ms. Huckabee and Ms. Nielsen and Mr. Miller, too, should be allowed to eat dinner in peace. The editorial comes a day after California Democrat Maxine Waters called on her supporters to continue confronting White House officials in public.
If you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome.
President Obama's former senior advisor David Axelrod tweeted about the episode this, kind of amazed and appalled by the number of folks on left who applauded the expulsion of press secretary and her family from a restaurant. This, in the end, is a triumph for real Donald Trump, his vision of America. Now we're divided by red plates and blue plates. Hashtag sad. Richard, I want to get your take on this first, because the Wall Street Journal has an editorial today talking about people on the left, their relentless contempt might end up re-electing him.
Right, and I think it's a small group of people on the left. I mean, there's an interesting story about the lady who owned this particular restaurant, the Red Hen. In the article that she was interviewed by the Washington Post, she indicates that, she has LGBTQ folks that work at her restaurant, and she feels that the policies of the Trump administration are limiting, and thus she don't want Sarah Huckabee Sanders to have dinner at her restaurant. Is that my particular opinion? No, I think you should be able to eat wherever you'd like to eat, period. And I don't think you should be discriminated for where you want to eat. But this speaks to the fact that there is a rift in this country between the left and the right. And a lot of people in this country feel as though the Trump administration has been intolerant and they can't have this respect argument when they're not respecting others.
But it's the hideousness of we're going to be intolerant to fight what they say is intolerant.
No, I agree. I mean, listen.
And that's what, and again, call these individuals what you call them baskets of deplorables, because that's what helps.
One of my favorite quotes is from Martin Luther King, and he says, "Only darkness can't drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." So if you have a problem with how the Trump administration is doing its policies, don't meet them with a clenched fist. Meet them with an open hand, right? And that's my policy, right? So if we want to get to the bottom and fix how we deal with this migrant issue at the border, let's do it with open hands. This is how we do it. We fix it with love. But with that being said, I think there are folks on the left that are very angry. They're very upset of how this country is going, and they're taking it out in their restaurants.
I don't think there's enough of a compromise. Just saying open hands, I don't think it's happening on both sides. So yes, the left is really pushing forward with the imagery, and that's affecting, according to Axios, Republicans saying that, the child in cages, whatever you want to call it, the children there, that's really affecting their base right now. Some moderate Republicans saying that they're going to join forces with Democrats. So I do believe that this bill could pass, but I feel like nobody's listening to you or us when we talk about compromise and negotiation, because there's not enough talking going on.
Well, Gabby, final word to you, that people who work for a living in politics, Richard excluded, they see this division as a winner for them. And look no further than the basket of deplorables. It was a phrase Hillary Clinton used, and it helped her lose.
Yeah, I think that this is a great opportunity for the president to say, look, this is how people are treated. There is a double standard. Nothing like this ever happened to Obama's press secretary. Sure, there were folks in the previous administration that were heckled at different points of time, but they were never kicked out of businesses with their families. And I think that this is, an excellent opportunity that the Wall Street Journal really hit the nail on the head in that editorial, that this is exactly what the president has been running on and will run on again in 2020.
Gabby, thank you so much. I'll end with, if you're on the right, bad behavior doesn't make you a media hero. But if you're on the left, it does. Gabby Morrongiello, thank you so much.
A Republican congressman on Monday introduced an initiative to censure California Democratic Representative Maxine Waters and ask for her resignation after she encouraged others to confront Trump administration officials. Andy Biggs, harass, introduced a measure calling on the Congresswoman to apologize to the White House for endangering their lives and sowing seeds of discord, resign from her position, and release a public statement saying harassment or violence isn't a form of protest. The measure comes after Waters encouraged harassment of Trump administration officials over the weekend at a rally in Los Angeles. If you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd and you push back on them, and you tell them they're not welcome anywhere, she said, sparking condemnation across the political spectrum. She later told MSNBC that protesters are going to absolutely harass them. The Biggs motion claims that Waters' statements could directly and unnecessarily lead to public unrest, physical violence, and physical injury, and that members of the administration have already been harassed in public. The motion reportedly already attracted the support of 5 members of Congress. Biggs told The Hill that Waters' comments do not become somebody who's in Congress, and that everybody agrees that it was just highly objectionable what she did. So we just introduced it. We have some co-sponsors, but what she did was to basically incite people to come after and attack members of the president's cabinet, he said. And also spread that out to more people. Waters has since doubled down on her comments at a rally, insisting that she didn't suggest harming people. Trump is the one who is creating lies, Waters said during a Monday afternoon news conference. Trying to have people believe that I talked about harming people. There's nowhere in my statement, anytime, any place that we talked about harm. I have nothing to do with the way people decide to protest. Protest is the democratic way as long as it is peaceful, Waters added. I believe in peaceful protest. It is guaranteed to you in a democracy.
So, as a libertarian, how should we handle A, the incident at the Red Hen, and B, Congressman Waters' comments? Joining me now from Reason.com, where he serves as managing editor, Peter Suderman. This is Suderman Computerman. Welcome back to the show, Peter.
Thanks very much. Glad to be here.
I know. So let's talk first about the Red Hen. Was it inappropriate for them, the restaurant owner, to ask Sarah Sanders to leave because she finds the administration she works for immoral?
I totally agree with what you said in your monologue. As a legal principle, of course, she has the right, as a business owner, to serve, with some very limited exceptions, anyone or no one for any reason or no reason. And that is a core constitutional principle. Freedom of association. You have the right to do business with the people you want to do business with, or to not do business with people you don't want to do business with. And it's really important to protect that right. On the other hand, I also think that there is a sort of matter of civility, and there's also a matter, frankly, of political strategy here. And I don't think that the trend here that is suggested by doing this and by what Maxine Waters has said, create basically a crowd, create a mob, and let's not let these people eat anywhere. And that seems to me to be very dangerous, even if you think that people in, say, the Trump administration's cabinet really deserve not to be allowed to eat out. Even if you think that, think about how far that this will eventually go and how people will take this. It's not like people are going to draw fine lines. That will expand very rapidly, and eventually we're going to end up with situation in which there are Democratic and Republican and maybe even some Libertarian restaurants, and that's not really the world that you or I or anyone, I think, wants to live in.
No, I mean, do we really want to live in a world that is trifurcated like that? I certainly don't. I mean, do you want to? I mean, maybe you do, but do you want to just drink with libertarians?
There is a Red Hen here in
Booth.
Washington, D.C. that is a wonderful restaurant, has absolutely nothing to do with this fracas, with this at all, and yet it has been getting harassed on social media. Now, they've
So
been
you're saying
handling
I
it
should
very
stop
well.
calling them asking if they have Prince Albert in a can?
Yes, probably. I don't, maybe I should stop calling them too. It's in my neighborhood. It's a great place.
Yeah.
And this is the trend that we see coming out of this. Again, it is
We're going to need
bedrock
apps.
legal
We're going to need
principle.
apps like, oh, can I drink at Starbucks and go to Chick-fil-A in the same day? I'm so confused.
In America, you can go to Starbucks, you can have a cocktail, you can go to whatever restaurant you want, so long as that business owner will agree to serve you. And like I said, this is a bedrock principle, but also but just like principle, sort of legal issues aside, there's also the matter of political strategy. And I think that if you are somebody who does not like Donald Trump and does not want to see Donald Trump in office after 2020, you're going to say this is a bad idea. And that is why you are seeing Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, David Axelrod, really senior people in the Democratic Party whose job basically is to elect Democrats. They're saying, I don't really think that this Maxine Waters business, I don't really think that we want to go that far. In fact, what we want to do is say we want civility, we want people to be able to eat where they want to eat.
And
This is
if
not
people
something that we
are
want
on
to
the
pursue.
fence, you want them voting for your party. And if you make people feel like they are going to be surrounded and shouted down, or much worse, because of a bumper sticker they might have, they are much less likely to vote for you or anyone in your party. And, for all the flaws that Nancy Pelosi has, I'm glad that she spoke out today against Maxine Waters, because, she was the one who stood up there with Paul Ryan when Steve Scalise was fighting for his life, saying that in the House we are all one family. You see how quickly this turns violent and deadly, unfortunately.
Yeah, the escalation is a real risk here. And for Democrats, the name of the game is flipping counties that went for that went for Obama and then went for Trump.
Yeah.
They want to flip them back to Democratic counties. Does anyone really think that the way to flip those counties that went one way and then went the other way is to attack, is to harass, is to form mobs that go after
the
Trump
living
cabinet
crap
members?
out of people who are signed up for another party? No, it's the dumbest thing you can do. And hopefully people with any political sense at all whatsoever will come to their senses and realize that, because it is exhausting. But I have to say, after watching the president's rally tonight, those rallies are addictive. They are like Gotti, a laugh a minute.
People do like them. Although, now that you bring up President Trump's rallies, I do got to say that President Trump has kind of participated in some of this behavior himself back on the campaign.
And we discussed that earlier in the show.
He encouraged people, to
and
encourage people to be violent to protesters.
That is
and I don't
not
think
okay.
that's
It's not okay on either side. I agree with you completely, and that's why we're a bunch of damn hippies for freedom, Peter Suderman.
I'm with you, Kennedy. Always.
Love it. Thank you, man. Good to see you.
Thank you.